Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second California Early Math Initiative Community of Practice meeting. We're so glad to have you joining us for our second meeting in this extension from our original project Work Together. And it's the first meeting for us together as a group in 2021. So a very warm welcome to 2021 for you all. In our AIMS team meeting this morning, we already talked about how we're in February now, and 2021 is part of it is already in the past, and it feels like we're already moving full steam ahead. I'm sure with many continuations of projects and work that we're doing, as well as new things. So I just want to welcome everybody. I want to thank you all for being here, for carving out some time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule to join us together and to reconnect into this network. I want to welcome all of our organizations who are joining us across the state, and any special guests that we have as well. I want to say a welcome and a special thank you to the AIMS team for being here today and for preparing what I think will be a really engaging, fun afternoon together as we continue to work together towards exploring how we can improve early mathematics education outcomes for students, for families, children, educators across the state. So we'll get started, and just to kind of give everyone an overview of what we have planned today, we'll begin with just some opportunity to reconnect, to focus our time together here for this afternoon. And then we'll move into some breakout groups, which are opportunities to do activities to engage in learning experiences together. Hands-on experiences, but you notice we're calling them hands-online. So we're really working to try to create engaging learning opportunities with tangible materials. And this is one of the things that remote distance learning has put to the test, but we've been at it with you all for a while. And so again, we thank you for your willingness to engage in some hands-on learning today, and to really draw some applications into our own work across the state. If you have a chance, you'll be using some actual materials, some physical materials. Hopefully many of you were able to receive those beforehand, and if not, I'm sure there will also be opportunity to grab a few things that you can use in order to engage fully in that experience. We'll take a break at 2:15. Which we know is important in online Zoom experiences. We encourage you during that break to get up, to move around, to stretch, to get away from your screen, to hydrate, to really sort of do those kinds of things that you would do if we were in person. And so we want to recognize that because we do have several hours together, a break is an important part of that. Following the break, we will again engage in small group conversations around several important and very relevant applications of our work together. And you'll have a chance to choose that session based on what is interesting to you, maybe something that is that you're currently engaging in your work that you'd like to share more about with the group. But those will be opportunities to extend your learning and extend your thinking and to really connect with this group. We feel so privileged to be able to bring this group together. And so we want to recognize the expertise, the experiences that everyone brings to this network, and to really use those for further collaboration and communication. And then we'll end with a conclusion, and we hope to be wrapped up by 3:30 today. So with that, we'll go ahead and continue our time together. I'd like to just, again, sort of draw your attention to some of the reasons why we are together in this space for this afternoon and why we've committed to these sessions throughout the year. First of all, we believe that we share an interest in this domain of early mathematics. We're excited that some of you are at county offices, some of you are at community organizations, nonprofits, others are at school districts. We have such a wide range of program here. And yet at the same time, we know that we have shared interest around these key issues that we're addressing. And so that brings us together. The second thing is, just as a reminder, we are a community. And so I invite everyone to embrace the community that we are, that is made possible by our connection and through our relationships. Those relationships, as you know, are built around trust. They're built around discussion, activities, and learning. And so again, just like we did the first day of our institute together in 2019, we want to put everybody in the place of a learner again and to explore and experience that, and then to make applications into our work. And then finally, our practice together. We are creating a body of knowledge, and it's around methods, it's around strategies, tools, presentations, activities, things that we can make with our hands that can facilitate our learning and young children and families learning. All of these things really come together to create our shared sense of practice together. So again, with these three things, I hope that you will walk away from your time today, again, reinvigorated about the domain of early mathematics, encouraged by the community that we're able to bring together here, and really motivated to move forward with new practices that you can implement tomorrow in your work, in your local context. I also think it's important to frame today as the first day of Black History Month. I want to just again sort of draw us to the very important aspects of our work that relate to equity, that relate to drawing in voices, experiences, and individuals who may have been unrepresented, whose voices have not been heard, and to really move forward toward an equitable world through our work together. And so I highlight Amanda Gorman's challenge to us to be the light, not only to see it, but to be it in our work together. And in addition to that, I want to highlight a few words from Robert Q. Berry III, who is the NCTM past president, National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. And recently, Robert wrote, "I believe, like many educators, in the brilliance of Black children in mathematics. To me, such a position is foundational when working with Black learners, and it must be acknowledged in the ways one interacts with, talks about, and embraces the cultural knowledge and resources Black learners bring to schools and classrooms. Many Black learners come to schools and classrooms with contexts rooted in the culture and traditions of the Black experience. As educators, I believe it is part of our work to know and understand the resources of Black learners and find ways to incorporate these into mathematics teaching and learning." So I present this today as a challenge that Robert's words here, as well as perhaps other ways that you've been thinking about culturally relevant pedagogy, that we look for ways to embrace the lives and experiences of communities of color in which we are part, and across the state, and in particular, as we focus on elevating the voices of those who haven't been heard, and having attention to the experiences of Black learners, Black educators in our communities, not only thinking about Black history, but Black present and Black futures. And I think that this can really undergird our work toward equity for all in learning experiences. So let that be an inspiration to you as we go forward. We want to continue to have these conversations in our coaching groups as well. So you may hear from AIMS coaches about additional opportunities and resources that you can use to really dig deeper, to learn more together, and to make a difference in your local community. So with that, we're going to begin to transition into our next section this afternoon, sorry, hands-on line. Now, what we'd like.
Question, Beverly.
Yeah.
Which of the bags are we opening? All of them?
No, just COP2.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. We want you to experience the anticipation. So you should have 2 other bags and they're different colors, but the 3 and 4 will open for the next communities of practice. Any other questions as we're gathering material? While we're waiting and just giving some space for everyone to gather their material, if you have your material and you just want to share about a high, something positive that's been happening lately within your work, just a celebration, I would open the floor to anyone that wants to share just something that has been positive.
Well, at our work, we just did the Saturday, we just had a distribution of cleaning supplies. And that was a big project because we had ordered like 3 months worth of cleaning supplies for, I think we made it kits for like 400 different programs. So that was that was good because we were able to get out some much needed materials to our childcare providers.
That's wonderful. And that is anyone that's done any kind of distribution day, that's no joke. There are so many organizational things that have to happen to make those things be a success, and so many people that have to be coordinated and work together. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And Belia and Irene were more of a part of that than I was. I kind of just heard about it, but they were very involved.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of the highlights, I think, thank you, Danielle, for mentioning it, was counting the amounts of supplies, you know, because we only have one warehouse person and he was receiving all the supplies. So we've had them for maybe 3 months or so. And so in order to make an equitable distribution to our providers, we needed to know how much stuff we had. So everything had to be brought from the warehouse to our central office and counted. So that was, and then distributed, you know, how many kits we were making. So it was a labor of love.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we have to, I always think it's important to remember that for learning to happen, there has to be that safe environment. And for so many childcare providers, I mean, and with COVID, that really is one of those essential things that just has to be put into place and have good systems so that you can make sure that that's done. And, you know, we don't really always have the mental space to think about the math or the science if we need to be so focused on, you know, where's some supplies going to come from, or we're worried about things like that. So
I just want to add today, a lot of providers, they didn't make it. They want to make an appointment to see if we still have stuff left. And I said, of course, we have things there. So far this morning, I have like 3 providers. They came to pick up the materials. And the other in the afternoon, they are coming. I'm so sorry if I disappeared for a little bit.
what a good reason to have to disappear for a little bit.
And yeah, they're really in the need of receiving those. I have one of the ladies, she said her mom passed away and couldn't come, and she was in the hospital with COVID. And so and they can't come out because they have COVID. So they are looking for somebody they can come and pick up the stuff related, but it doesn't have the virus. And so probably gonna come in the afternoon. Yeah, it's kind of sad. It's like mixed feeling because you feel happy you're doing the service, but you feel sad because all the things going on in their, you know, side. It's kind of, but I'm happy that we can help and, you know, and be there for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we have the agency and all the, you know, the group is financially helping us to do this is possible. And now I know we're all exhausted, but we're here.
Well, thank you for spending the time. I know for all of you, spending your time here is a gift. And so we want to make sure that it balances some really good stuff that you can use right away and for your own learning, as well as wherever you find yourself. So we're going to get right into tinkering with some catapults. Hopefully everyone has their supplies. If you don't, let me know and I can put them in the chat as well. And I am going to do a new share where I am going to share my camera with you so that you can see what my hands are doing. So we're going to build it together.
Oh, I'm being crazy here.
All right, so here should be all your supplies. Does everyone see that okay? You can see my scissors, my popsicle sticks, my string, my tape, and so on. Okay, so now I'm going to clear off my board here. So this right here is what we're going to make. This is a catapult. So you'll take the ball that you found in your bag and you will launch it with the catapult. But this catapult is our second catapult that we're going to make. What we wanted to start with is just something very, very simple. If you think about it, launching things is something that kids do very naturally. They throw balls, they throw food, they throw lots of different things, but their bodies really are maybe one of the first things that is that launching arm. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a can and we're going to make it into a catapult. So you get your plastic spoon, your tape, and your can. And all you're going to do is you're going to take this tape and you're going to tape it to the front of your can. Okay, so my question for everyone, and one of the themes for today is going to be to talk about the different variables that we can adjust that will possibly make for a different result. So with this very simple catapult, we have a can, we have tape, and we have a spoon. What might be a variable that we could adjust in this catapult?
I don't have
The size of the spoon.
The size of the spoon. Awesome.
I don't have a can, but I'm using a bottle. I don't know if it will work.
That's perfect. Okay, so even if you didn't have a can, you could use a water bottle. Is it empty or full, Irene?
It's empty.
Okay, so I'm going to warn you. You know,
Yeah.
I could let her figure this out on her own, but I really would like to have her feel successful right away without some kind of weight in there. Like this is a full can of soup.
Okay.
It will not work as well. So find something a little heavier.
I'm gonna put water in.
Perfect. Somebody else. So someone mentioned the size of the spoon. So rather than a plastic spoon, I could get a larger spoon. What other things could we switch and change on this?
Maybe
where
how
you put the
far?
tape. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jessica.
I was gonna say, where you put the tape. Like
Okay,
if the
so
spoon,
where we put the tape. Now, when you say where, do you mean like down here, like we would move the spoon?
yes, so like if you were to position the spoon maybe a little bit further out.
So like maybe like that.
Yes,
Okay, or we could do that.
yes.
Perfect. So that would be like the height of the launching arm. Awesome. Anyone else? What are things we could adjust? What variables could we adjust?
How tight you tape, how tightly you tape it.
Okay. How tightly we tape it. So now we're talking more about this attribute of the catapult that's like holding the spoon down. Awesome. What kind of tape did everyone use today? I have this blue painter's tape. Did anyone use the same or something different?
I use
Yeah.
masking tape.
I was using packing tape.
Ah. So we have tapes for different purposes, right? Painter's tape can come off your wall and not take the paint with it. Masking tape is maybe a little more universal. It became painter's tape because people had their paint taken off the wall. Packaging tape we use to put together packages. Maybe that would change the variable in our catapult. I don't know. Okay, so we could talk more about that, but one of the themes that I would like to pique your curiosity today is, what if we just tweak something? Will it change the result or help us meet that goal? So maybe for your spoon catapult, you want it to land in a very precise location. Maybe for your spoon catapult, you want it to go as far as possible. There's lots of different goals you could make for your catapult, and all of that is your personal choice. So what I'd like you to do now is you can either turn your camera off or leave it on, but I'd like you to go use your catapult. If you don't have like a ping pong ball like this, feel free to find something else you can launch that, of course, you don't mind throwing across a room. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to go and tinker with your catapult. All right, now I know everyone's having a lot of fun, but we're gonna make more catapults, and I promise to give you playtime again at least once, maybe even twice, depending on how long everything is taking us. So does anyone have anything surprising, exciting, perplexing that you would like to share with the group?
I got some good distance on my catapult.
Nice. I personally like distance as the goal more often than accuracy.
I had to shift my spoon up to get a better distance.
So you found that the taller the arm length of your catapult, the farther you could send it and launch the item?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, for me, I was holding the can, and then depending on what angle I held it, that's how far it went.
Oh, so you were
Or the
exploring
direction it went.
angles. So like you would hold it in different angles like this?
Exactly, yes.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Well, for me, it's going higher. I mean, the barrel is lie down, and I had to put a rock to help the barrel not to move around. And then when I did it, touch the spoon, it go higher or lower. And
okay. Awesome.
kind of fun.
And who would know what a simple catapult, right? Okay, so, but we're not done yet. We're gonna make another one. Now we're gonna make one that's a little more complex. The base is not just a can. We're gonna build this right down here, okay? So you're gonna start and you're gonna wanna take your 4 popsicle sticks and kind of build the base, okay? And then it's really your choice. You can use rubber bands, or you could use string as well for each of these corners to make them stay. I find rubber bands to be the most efficient, but you know, if you like to just try new things, you just knock yourself out. So when I use a rubber band, I always loop it first, and then I go along the diagonal. So see how it's making that diagonal line? And then I come around the other diagonal, so it makes like an X. And then I just loop it onto the popsicle stick. So that's how I make my right angles. My corners work well for me. So again, I loop it onto the top part of the popsicle stick. Then I come along the diagonal. Then I go along the other diagonal. So it makes that X. And then I loop it over the popsicle stick. So you're going to do that 4 times until you've made your base. All right, so go ahead and give me a thumbs up or give me some kind of indication when you're done with this part of the catapult, and then I'll go on to the next kind of phase of it. All right, thanks, Bobby. So once you get your base done, I'll give you a question to kind of think about. You can think about what your goal for this catapult is going to be. Do you want it to be the same one where you want to go for distance? Do you want accuracy? If you want to grab a bowl somewhere, you could try to launch it into the bowl or onto a particular place on your wall. You could even create a target of some kind. And then you're also going to want to ask yourself the question, in this next step, we're going to kind of create the tension that really makes that potential force for your catapult. So do you want to use, you're going to have some options. Do you want to use rubber bands or string for that tension? So we intentionally gave you 2 different strings and rubber bands so that you could, so there was more than one option, and that was a variable that you could adjust. All right, how are we doing on building our base? Are more of us finished with that? Does anyone need me to undo one of these and show it again? All right. In the spirit of, I want to make sure we have enough time to play. I'm going to move on, but during the next play session, if for some reason I went too fast, I'll just keep my camera on and we'll keep working on building it. Okay, so as I stated before, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create that potential force that launches it. So the option is you can take rubber bands and you can just kind of slide them over like this. And then you're done. Or you can use this string to wrap it around. Now, if you think about catapults were created in a time where they didn't really have rubber bands, right? They had rope and wood. So that's what they used when they were building catapults and launching them over castle walls. So I wonder, you know, maybe rubber bands would be better. And they were like, man, if only I had that invention. Maybe not, but I'm going to make mine kind of like those traditional catapults. So I'm going to put it around 2 times, and then we're going to tie it up right here. All right, I got mine tied. Okay, so with this, you can even kind of fling it. Think about this. This is kind of like a guitar string, right? Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors, if you have one. If you don't, then you can just break them. It's just not as clean. And you're going to take a popsicle stick and cut it in half. And the reason you're going to do that is because you're going to need to twist that popsicle stick around. So you stick the popsicle stick in here, and then you start twisting it. Maybe you want to twist it a certain number of times to see how it works. Whoops, mine just came out. But the goal is to create a twist so that it helps build that potential force for our catapult. All right. So you'll notice after a while, if you kind of put the popsicle stick forward a little bit, you can hear the potential force. Now, maybe you want to get it tighter. We'll leave that up to you. The last step is you're going to take either a rubber band or string and a spoon. You're going to kind of wrap the rubber band around the base of the spoon like this. And then you're going to slide it onto your catapult here. We're just going to slide that rubber band on because the spoon is our launching arm. Now, if you didn't have a spoon, you could use a fork. You could even build a launching arm with maybe the top of that water bottle that Irene, you had. You could take the top of that and use it. But the idea is that you're going to put this launching arm right here, and there is your catapult. And again, remember, you can twist this. You can take the spoon off and you can twist this tighter if you want. And we've talked about how you could make the arm length different for the spoon. That was something that people had tried. So this is your catapult. Now, what we'll do is we'll have some playtime again. We'll maybe take 2 to 3 minutes. And then we'll come back together and hear how it went for everybody. But I will definitely stay on. So if you're having trouble building it, let me know so then I can repeat any of these steps for you. All right, is there anyone having any trouble that has any questions for me? I don't see anything in the chat. All right, why don't we start coming back together and talk about some of the things that we noticed as we were playing and tinkering around with our catapults. Oops. All right, so what were some of the things, the variables that you guys adjusted? What were your goals? Did you meet those goals? How was your catapult play experience?
I liked the second one with the bays And I use the rubber bands because I remember as a kid, all the catapults I know had rubber bands. So it helped, and that would help the objects go far. And that's what happened with my ball. The first one needed too much work to get it as far as the one with the base.
Nice. So your second catapult worked a lot better for you.
Yes, I liked that one better.
Awesome. Was that everyone's experiences, or did the can work better for some of you? Oh, I'm seeing some nods. So how fun is that, you know, it just kind of depends on your tape and your spoon and your engineering. What's working better for you? Someone else, what was your play experience like? What were some of the variables you adjusted? Did you meet your goal?
I wanted the tension in the second catapult to be stronger, but then I saw that the popsicle sticks were starting to get squeezed into the middle, and so for me the can one went a lot further than this one.
So Bobby, it sounds to me like for your popsicle stick, somehow you need to reinforce your base and make it a little stronger so it can compete with your can model. Awesome. Anybody else? What was your play experience like?
So for me, I wanted kind of like a release mechanism. So I got an additional piece of string and then I tied it over my spoon. And then so I could like release it and then bring it back. That made it more fun for me. But yeah.
I love it. You wanted an easier way to release. Well, maybe you were watching me because I was like fumbling with mine and trying to get it on. And my can, I actually built this little tape thing to hold the ball in place better because I kept, you know, it was becoming a fine motor challenge to hold the ball in place before it, you know, was tipping over to the side.
Yeah.
That's great. Anybody else?
I felt like the can worked for me better. Maybe because it was a stronger base than the popsicle sticks. And then I felt that I didn't really have that much tension with the other one with the popsicle sticks. So then I kept on trying to undo it and then like create more tension, but it wasn't doing it for me. So I think it was the can. The can was a lot better. And I just
You like the can better.
Yes, and I think it's because it has a stronger base.
Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually do another iteration of making a catapult. And I want to kind of let you have the freedom to do it as you want and are curious. The thing that we're trying to emphasize is that the more you build something, doing different iterations of it, the better you become at paying attention to and tweaking and adjusting and tinkering with that design. So if you want to build another can catapult and you want to adjust the tape that you use or the height of the launching arm, or just explore more play in the launching, more power to you. I'm going to walk through the steps of building this catapult again because it is a little bit more, there's just more details in it. And you can, on this one, you can adjust string instead of rubber bands. We could talk about ways to reinforce your base and so on. But the idea is for the next 5 minutes, make sure I'm good on time, we're going to just try another iteration because there's power in doing things multiple times. Being able to think through each of those things, like what kind of launching arm do I want? What kind of base do I want? How am I going to get more tension? And also you are released to go into whatever space you find yourself in and find something. Maybe you don't want to use string. Maybe there's an idea that you have that would make your catapult even better. Like, we do not have to be in front of our cameras right now. You get to make another catapult and make it with whatever material and tools that you have, and then we'll share out again. So we'll make it, and then we'll probably share out in about 7 minutes or so. Okay, so I'll start again, and I'm going to adjust my share. to my second camera. Any questions for this phase of our playtime? Making and playing time? All right. Okay, so again, we're gonna, and here's what I found too. One of the things that I like about the popsicle stick catapult is it's really easy to deconstruct and reuse the parts. So I have taken this thing apart multiple times. This tape right here, I don't know if anyone noticed on my camera, but this popsicle stick was sliding out and I didn't want it to slide out again. So I put some tape here to kind of like give it just a little thicker dimension so that it wouldn't slide out. And now it's not sliding out at all. So definitely was able to meet that goal. All right. All right, now you don't have to deconstruct your popsicle stick. You can do some other ones, but I kind of wanted to show you how fast and easy this is. We have done this catapult in our webinars online, and so I have made and deconstructed many catapults. Okay, so the first step is to build the space, and again, having those two diagonals are really important in just making it not so wobbly. So if someone wants to kind of test out what this would be like if you did not put it along the diagonals, that might be fun for you. Because if all you do is one diagonal, you're going to end up with a lopsided base. You just wrap it around like this. But that might be fun and important for kids to learn about. See how it's just, it starts to tweak a little bit. All right, so we're making that base. We're going to do it 4 times where we go along the diagonal, and we go to the other side, and then loop it. One catapult that I saw online used pencils instead of popsicle sticks. And the reason that they used pencils was because pencils are a little longer than a popsicle stick, and then they didn't have to cut that popsicle stick in the middle. So that's another option. If people have like pencils at home, they could use them to build a base for a catapult. So then once you go through this base, again, you're gonna cut a popsicle stick that's short so that it can go in between and be able to be launched around. Now I'm gonna use rubber bands this time, but you know, why use just one rubber band? I'm gonna use a few. So I think I'm gonna put 4 rubber bands to create that potential force for my launching arm. And then I'm going to start twisting. I notice that when I'm doing this, this feels very, it has a lot of give to it, which means there's a lot of elasticity in these rubber bands. So I'm going to be spinning a little bit more because I want it to feel tight. Now it's starting to have a little less give. Okay, well that's a good sound. All right. And then once we've created that tension, that's that potential force again, that potential energy, then we got to grab and we are making our launching arm. And as I said earlier, I've seen catapults where they use like the top of a water bottle and just hot glue it to a popsicle stick. So there's lots of ways to do it. The plastic spoon was just an inexpensive way to do it that seemed to work okay. So here's my iteration that used rubber bands instead of string to launch. I was launching all my extra popsicle sticks because my ball, it fell. And now it's not going to be, I'm not going to go hunt for that. There we go. So we'll give you a few more minutes of play. So however you want, and I'll be available if you want to ask me any questions or even problem solve different things. I know someone had mentioned getting a stronger base. I'd love to hear any ideas you had and things that you tried. I definitely think I'm going to add a little tape on the bottom of this so I don't lose my popsicle stick and have to retwist all that energy into the rubber bands. Oh boy. All right, about 1 more minute. So if you have a particular thing you want to try, go ahead and try it right now. I'm attempting this launching arm and it has yet to, there we go. I finally got it to work. I do think that would be much easier on the fine motor. Holding a string down is a little easier than. There we go. All right. Okay, so what was your play experience like? What did you try?
I added so I kept mine the same, and then I added a rubber band in the middle to see if it would make the tension tighter, but it really didn't make a difference.
Okay, so the rubber band wasn't actually very helpful.
No.
Agreed.
Okay.
I felt like I got more of a kick with the string than with the rubber band.
Okay, so that's confirmed by someone else. Awesome. Does anyone have any idea of why that might be the case? Oh, we're going to watch Imelda. She's going to launch it. Oh, she tried a new base.
Yeah, so I did it like this. It goes further. It goes further. This one went further than when I did the other base.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Imelda, will you do that one more time?
Let me go get the ball really quick.
Okay, perfect. So there's lots of different ways to make a base.
Like that.
All right, awesome. Anybody else want to share? What'd you try? What worked, what didn't work? Because we learn, right, from the things that don't work as well as the things that do work.
Okay, I wanted to try something different. I couldn't find my pencil box, but and I went and got some vines, dry vines, you know, from grapevines. So I cut the sticks. I didn't have enough time to, you know, cut two, 8 sticks about the same size. So I said, I'll give it a try. Will it work? No, I need to have a double. Like we were using the double popsicle sticks when we made the structure for the two sides to give it a good, you know, more strength to hold the little square. But then I was thinking, if I ever am at a park and we can, you know, go and collect, you know, little sticks, how can I use that? You know, if I don't have popsicle sticks, you know, accessible.
Sure.
With my grandkids. So I figure, how can I try this? But this is interesting, the structure that it came out. It looks nice.
Right. It's a little artsy.
Like artwork.
So here's the thing. That's one of the things that I've kind of thought about is, you know, what's going to draw someone into building a catapult?
Oh.
Is it always just launching it really far, or is it building a cool looking catapult? So I think some people enjoy the designing and the building of something just as much as launching it. Awesome. Anyone else?
For me, I work better at the battle.
Okay.
And you know, throwing things farther away. My came out too wobbly. And I was thinking, and the little kids, when they want to use this kind, will be harder for them instead of using the other one.
Right.
And this structure will be better for the bigger kids.
Okay. So maybe older kids. That are a
Yeah,
little
and then
more
maybe
able
they
to
will
build
come
it.
with better ideas than that.
Sure.
Yeah, but I like the idea of Belia too. Like, you know, you go outside and get sticks and they can figure out how to make that base. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else? What was your play experience like? What did you learn? What did you notice?
I just added a second spoon to mine.
That's a good idea.
To see. It added a slightly a bit more tension because I had to shove the little other half of the popsicle stick in between the string that I had originally had. So, but it really was the same. It's just I've been ambushing my children downstairs while they're trying to learn, and it's been fun for me.
That is awesome. Maybe there is a goal only to have a lot of fun and, like you said, ambush someone with your catapult. I love it. I love it. Oh, that's too fun. And we in the session that we did before, we gave you a ping pong ball because we wanted you to have something fun to open. But you can use cotton balls. You could use wadded up paper. I mean, there are just so many things. Kids could use marshmallows. And try to launch them in each other's mouth. I mean, there's just so much fun that I think we can have launching things. So, and even creating something. There's something about when you're playing with the toy that you just made that I just think helps affirm that creative process and that making process. Awesome. Okay, so let me go back to some of my PowerPoint slides. Feel free to jump in anytime and talk about your experience. So, whoops, wrong way. Okay, so here's an example of like different launching arms. And one thing that I tried is I use different color ping pong balls. And then when I used the different colored ping pong balls, I filmed it in slow-mo and then looked at the slow motion recording to kind of look at the different trajectories that the balls took. So there's a lot of fun that you can have. The reason I use 3 different color balls is because it would all look the same. First attempt, second attempt, third attempt, or you can see that on this one, I had used different lengths of arms. So then in the second picture was, you know, my tinkering around with, you know, does it have to be tape? Could we put rubber bands on the can and would that hold it just as well? So I won't give you that answer. And then these are just other designs for catapults with the popsicle sticks. And again, you know, sometimes you want to have a little more time and energy put in the making. Maybe you have an older audience that's doing it, or maybe the young child is just really enjoying that parent-child interactivity, or maybe with the siblings. So there's something fun about creating something a little more complex. The one on the bottom left is the one that my son built with some wood glue and the popsicle stick. So you could see the base is a little bit different. But again, what materials you want to use is really up to you, and just unleash people to be able to kind of use the ones that they want to use, or maybe they have at their house. The more we open that up and realize that it doesn't have to be a particular thing, I think the more creativity we'll see. All right, so some things that we talked about were like we could have different goals, there's different design, there's different materials, all these things can vary. And that's part of that scientific process that we're going to be going through as we build and as we create. So lastly, I want to just make some connection back to the foundations and standards and kind of give a space for people to talk about where would you see this activity fitting in the foundations or in the standards that you work with.
For us, for preschool, there's attention maintenance. And so I think this is a really good way to have an activity that would engage attention, and that it's ongoing, because you can add different materials and they could just keep creating. And I could imagine the preschoolers just really staying engaged with it for a long period of time.
Awesome.
For the foundations, we can look at measurements. We can see how far the distance that the ball travels as well.
Awesome. So definitely some math in measuring how far the ball travels, using an actual measuring tape or their feet or some other toy, maybe shoes. They could measure how many shoes did it get. There's lots of different ways to do that. Awesome.
So I guess in the science and engineering would be the physics of the tension and how far something goes.
Right. So the physics in that tension of our right here, whether we use string or whether we used rubber bands. In this, we were using tape. Doesn't matter what kind of tape that we're using. our designs, like this popsicle or this spoon works pretty well, but the lip was kind of important holding the ball because it kept falling. It was irritating me. Maybe there would be a better launching arm. Maybe I could have built a better launching arm. That's that engineering. Engineers are constantly looking at designs and tweaking that. All right, anyone else? How does this connect back? And not even just your standards or foundations, how does this connect back to maybe something that the family child care providers or teachers that you are working with might see it as beneficial for things that they want to do with their students or their children?
I think also the language portion, Beverly, is important. It's an important component because when they're explaining how they did it, or just like you asked us to explain to you, you know, how did you build it? What was your experience? So even having a child explain why they did their catapult a certain way or what materials they were using. So I think the language portion is really important.
Yeah, and what a playful way to have to use language, right? I mean, I'm telling you about the thing I just made. I think there's a lot more value and purpose in that instead of, you know, sometimes kids were asking them questions and it's just harder you're not going to have as many words when you don't really want to tell you all about the catapult. Or maybe, you know, maybe the kid is like Bobby and they were launching things at their brother or sister and they were talking about all of that. They're going to be very excited and use a lot of words, you know, as they're explaining this. And that's where I think joy and engagement really come into play with the learning and the language development.
They may also use gestures when they're explaining, like Beverly, when you just got excited, you went like this. So kids may also do that if they're talking about like their catapult and like the different force that it used. So that'd be important to look at too.
Yeah, because you probably don't, I've been intentional to try to use the language like launching arm and base, but that might not be things that kids have ever heard before. So how do they build that vocabulary, but in these playful experiences, you know, and they're saying, and this thing, it kept hitting that gesture is totally helping them to be able to explain what they're trying to communicate, but it also gives you that space to label that with vocabulary. Awesome. Well, any last words? We're down to the last minute. And then from here, we're going to take a break and then go into some choice breakout rooms. So any last comments about catapults and tinkering with variables in the making? We'll give the going.
It's fun.
Good. I hope you had some fun. We need fun too.
Awesome. Well, I like the idea of problem solving with the children because they're going to make them think according to their age and do it different ways, and they come up with their own ideas. So that's a great thing.
Awesome. I love the problem solving there. So I just want to make a note that on this slide, it's showing you the different breakout sessions that you'll be able to choose after our break. So they're automatically going to send us back to the main room in the next 43 seconds, 42, 41. But once your break is done, that 15 minutes, you're going to come back and you're going to choose what you want to dive into a little more deeply. So these are the options. I'll leave it up here, and then we'll also have those options available for you to see as well. So thank you guys so much for playing with catapults with me. Please feel free to email me or ask me any other questions as well. And I will possibly see you in the breakout rooms. Bye, guys.
Bye.
And the first is a breakout with Scott that it relates to extending the hands-on activity. A breakout with Brooke, which is engagement with infants and toddlers. A breakout with Bev, which is best practices for virtual and distance learning. breakout with Aileen, which is family engagement take-home kits, and then a breakout with Elin, which is around coaching. And just as we did in the initial session, these breakouts will be opened momentarily. And we'd like to give you the choice of where you'd like to follow up with some further conversation, some discussion, some dialogue, sharing out of ideas around these topics and how they relate to your work, how they relate to the work of others who are partnering with us in this initiative. So we're going to take the next 45 minutes or so just to engage in some conversations. So if you've got ideas, fantastic. If you're ready to ask questions, fantastic. We hope for a really engaging time together to share these ideas that get a little bit more into implementation and some of the issues that we may be facing. So we'll open up those breakouts now, and then we will come back together in about 45 minutes. So again.
Okay, so we're gonna spend a little time just kind of reflecting on the activity that we just did with the catapults, and think specifically about the age groups of infants and toddlers, and just have some time for you all to share ideas that you have, to ask questions that we can ponder together, but basically just spend a little bit of time thinking about how we can engage infants and toddlers with these ideas of catapults. So some of the things that we're going to be thinking about are the first question, just what are the possible big ideas from the catapults? So we'll spend a little time kind of fleshing that out together. What were those big ideas that we saw opportunities for in engaging with the catapults? And then from there, think about what do infants and toddlers do naturally related to those big ideas? So what are some things that we notice that toddlers and especially infants, they already do that might relate to those big ideas that we can take as opportunities to kind of begin to think about these big ideas with them? And then lastly, what are the activities that can give opportunities for infants and toddlers to experience these big ideas? So how can we connect what these children already do engage in? What are their natural curiosities and that sort of thing? And how can we connect it to these big ideas that we're thinking about? So the other thing we're going to do is I'm going to put a link in the chat. And as we share and learn together, please feel free to add this to the Padlet that we started at our last COP. So I'll give you a moment to get that link open. And even if you notice someone else is discussing something and you find it very interesting or helpful or something that we want to capture, this is kind of our place where we're going to put our thoughts and our thinking that can be shared with others, and also give us a place to go back to and kind of remember what our discussions were about, remember those great ideas that you all came up with, and we could put it there. So if you'll notice, did everybody see the scaffolding down column? And then you should see that we had added in some ideas for the shape viewfinder that we worked on the last time. And so I don't know why this won't let me kind of scroll. Okay, so if we just go down to the very bottom, and I'll just put, I'm going to put COP number 2 as a first comment there, if it will allow me to. And it does not want. Okay. Okay, so I don't know why, but it is not wanting. Okay, there we go. All right, so underneath where I've added the little spot for COP2, feel free to add in things as we go there. So beginning with that first question, and you can write in the chat, you can unmute yourself and share with us in any way you'd like. So what are, and I'll share my screen so you can see the first question, but what were kind of the big ideas that you noticed there were opportunity for with the catapults? And we don't have to think necessarily just about infants and toddlers yet, but just kind of pull out what were some of those opportunities and big ideas that we could pull from this activity.
The opportunity of cause and effect.
Definitely. Cause and effect was there in a lot of places, right? Whether it was modifications you made, how did that cause different effects to whether it was distance or how did what was the cause and effect of some of the decisions we made in our building? One thing that I noticed that we talked about a lot was the potential energy that gets kind of stored up as we spin it and the tension that we build. So like tension, potential energy. What other big ideas? So in the chat, we've got definitely basic knowledge of measurement and early scientific experiences. Right, so all sorts of different opportunities for measurement. I know in the group we were in, we talked about it could be measuring where we're thinking about how high or how low we put the spoon on the simple catapult, but also talking about measuring the distance, measuring the weight of different objects that we might throw. So definitely lots of measurement ideas. We could think about trajectory.
You can think about like engineering and geometry and like what makes a strong base.
Definitely. And thinking about, shapes and why does it make a strong base, and lots of engineering and geometry available there. I see problem solving. Absolutely. Did anyone have to kind of modify something? Something wasn't quite working out. You had to do something a little different to try to kind of figure out, make happen what you wanted to happen. Okay. All right. So just thinking about these kind of big ideas, these opportunities that possibly as we're working with older children or these catapults in particular, we might really be able to draw out of the engagement that we have with the students and the catapults. Let's think a little bit about, and I am gonna share my screen on this one just to make sure we can. Let's think a little bit about, in regards to those big ideas, what do infants and toddlers kind of do naturally? And if you want, you can break it up into, let's think about infants first and then toddlers, or vice versa.
They're curious and they explore their environment.
Definitely a lot of curiosity and that exploration. I might be missing a chat. They build towers to explore how to make a strong base. Absolutely. So some of those geometry ideas you're talking about, Hannah, and that engineering, we can really start to think about as they're engaging with materials as they're young, those blocks and tower building and that sort of thing. I'm going to double check on our Padlet and see if we are adding our ideas there. So if you have mentioned something in the last few minutes, if you want to take time to go ahead and jump over to that Padlet and add your ideas there, you can just click on that plus sign that you see underneath and add some of your thoughts and ideas. It could either be around the first question, just kind of what are some of the big ideas that we can draw from with the catapults, or it can start to go in some of the ideas that you have shared around our second question, which was about the natural things that infants and toddlers do that might already relate to those. Hi, Kathy. I noticed you just jumped in. Did you get the Padlet link? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
All right. Just to kind of share what we've kind of gone over, we started with the question of thinking about the activity that we did with the catapults. Just what were some possible big ideas, and just shared some of the big ideas from geometry and engineering, thinking about the sturdiness of the base to potential energy and force and cause and effect and distance and measurement, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're trying to think, since we're here thinking about infants and toddlers and what we can do with them, just what are those natural things, since it can be more challenging to get an infant to do something you want them to engage in, right? But they definitely, we've already mentioned, have that natural curiosity and explore their world. And so what are those things they do as they are curious, as they're exploring? What are those things that they do that relate to some of these big ideas from the catapults that we could kind of capitalize on? So that's kind of where we are, is thinking around those. So feel free to share any thoughts or ideas you have. And I see some thoughts going into the Padlet, so thank you for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and think about this third question. What are the activities that can give opportunities for infants and toddlers to experience these big ideas? So maybe let's start with toddlers. And in the last group that we were in, some people had already shared some ideas, like they thought that this might be a little bit easier of a catapult for their toddlers. Any other ideas or activities or things that we could do with that toddler group? Then we'll talk about infants.
I was just thinking that the whole popsicle stick part and like the smaller tools may be really hard for toddlers to do. So even like just scaling up the activity to bigger things that would be easier for them to put together would be a start.
Awesome. Let's sit on that for a second and think about what materials could we use. So if we want to use bigger materials, because we even have, smaller sticks compared to the larger sticks, but what are the materials?
Ramps and balls.
Ramps and balls.
I was thinking you could just tape the popsicle stick directly onto the table that's in front of them, and then they could just sit behind it, and then they don't have to hold anything. It's super secure.
Right, definitely. So we know with this one, of course, as people were making modifications, we had somebody that built like a whole stand and everything, but that's like a really easy way is just utilize the tables or the things they have in front of them already. That's stabilizing, so they don't have to use their hands so much. Hannah, you had mentioned possibly using like bigger materials. Did you have in mind, like how big was your mind imagining? What kinds of things were you thinking?
I was thinking of like larger blocks that you could use that are a little heavier, but would just be a bigger base that they could move around easier. And maybe like a spatula instead of a spoon. So then, because toddlers have trouble like using their fingers. So if they could use their whole hand to pull back the catapult, that might be easier. But then when Bobby said the table, I was thinking, oh, you could just totally tape a spoon down onto the table and then they just have to do one-handed things. So that was a really good idea too.
Awesome. So really like the types of materials and things we can take into account for whatever grade level we're using, thinking about what they're going to have to do with their hands. Another quick little reminder, if we could jot those down in our Padlet so we don't lose these ideas, because I think these are great ideas, and others as they are in the other groups, I think will really benefit from the ideas you guys are sharing. That sounds like a lot of fun. So kind of even scaling up. And then also kind of minimizing the amount of materials as well. Freeing up their hands, different ideas that are going to free up their hands. All right, my throat is so dry. Okay, so we thought about toddlers for a little bit. What about infants? So thinking about the big ideas we talked about, thinking about also the kind of just natural activities that infants engage in. What might be activities that we could do with them that are kind of connected to what we did with the catapults? Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I think okay, so we did have somebody say in the chat, I think we need to make it bigger. And then also using variety of balls and exploring with rolling down a hill and a ramp. Okay, great. I'll try to make sure I don't miss that chat anymore.
Maybe for infants, since they, like using the fine motor is really hard, maybe they could just hit something. So like instead of having to pull it back to launch it, they could just hit it, because they use those like those little toys where you push a button and something flips up, so.
Definitely. So that's even a couple different ideas that you had mentioned, them hitting it and using, I remember somebody brought that up in the last session that we had too, comparing the catapult to how far they can throw it and stuff, but kind of their arm becomes that catapult arm. And of course they love to throw things. And then also thinking about different toys that have that, kind of contraption built in where they just press a button. Could we build something like that ourselves to where it's like just something they got to hit?
Yeah, they could hit something and it releases, part of the mechanism, and then it launches. So the actual design of the catapult does more of the work.
Mm-hmm. Jessica is mentioning that he is loving these ideas, and he works with preschool ages, so it's great to have some of those different ideas for the different age groups.
I was thinking too, in the center that I work with, Infants and Toddlers, they're separated outside by a play yard. So there's some kids on one side of the fence and some kids on the other side of the fence. And if you have really soft things like the ping pong ball, it'd be fun to launch them over, and then they go get them, and then the other group brings it back, or they launch it back and forth over the fence with a different group of kids.
That's so fun. That would be fun. Turning it into a game. trying to catch it, seeing how far they can launch it. All really great ideas. Some of the things I'm even thinking about, like with infants, there's that, you know, picture of the infant in their high chair with all the food. They're just throwing their food off of their table. And how that really is kind of related to just that launching, but how they're so kind of fascinated with things being thrown or things flying. They definitely enjoy doing that themselves. Thinking about trajectory and things like that, that early toddler, infant, I'm thinking about my little nephew, and he's 1, and he just loves to go around kicking balls and throwing things. I really like that idea though of kind of making a contraption that they just have to pull something or hit something and it just causes it to. Oh no. Okay. All right. Okay, so, and I see people are really making note of all of the different ideas and things. Is there anything else around that infant age? Even just if we take a step back and think about what are the activities that infants naturally engage in?
It could just be like getting them to do different movements. So maybe not like having them actually make a catapult, but having them throw a ball is a similar motion for them, and seeing that when they move their arms, something goes through the air. Yeah, so just using their bodies more.
Definitely. So what other ways can you think of that they could use their bodies? Because that embodied learning is really kind of our strong point there. We have a lot of opportunity with the young ones there. So what are some other ways that we could kind of take advantage of how they like to move around and engage and be in it? Stomping. Bobby had mentioned stomping. Tell me a little bit more about that. What are you thinking when you're thinking of stomping? What would that look like to you?
I'm envisioning something like a rocket launched, you know, where you just stomp the pedal and then it shoots out. So maybe you stomp something and then the ball flies. Or squeeze something like a water bottle and have something very light made out of paper so it just squeezes, because squeezing is a little easier. Or sitting on something.
Definitely. Yeah, because these catapults, we're really relying on the force coming from the tension that we build up as we turn that. But there's other ways, right? The air being pressurized and pushing things out. Okay, we've got kicking. Their leg becomes the catapult, exploring which of their limbs can make something move. That would be really fun. Especially you could like show them a little catapult thing and they're launching, and then it's like, what part of your bodies can make a catapult? And they start exploring, what can I do to make something fly through the air? Their arms, their legs. They'd probably come up with headbutts and all sorts of different fun things. Awesome. Let's see.
Or they can use like a simple tool like a hammer to make something go.
Yeah. I think that kind of relates to the idea of the ramps and the balls and things. So just kind of creating some sort of force that causes something to move in specific ways. Can use different materials like hammers and whatnot to kind of create that force that sparks that movement.
I think that was interesting that you said move in specific ways too, because that's something infants and toddlers have trouble with, is they may be able to make something move, but maybe not where or how they want it to. So like maybe setting up different targets for them, like trying to get them to throw a ball into a laundry basket or kick one in there. That could be really challenging too.
Right, because we talked about, you know, distance and measuring how far and trying to create one that goes as far as we can. But what about having an objective to kind of project it at the perfect amount to make it land where we want it, hit something we want? Those are great ideas. As you were talking to, it kind of reminded me of some of those oh, I'm not going to think of the word, but the way that you described how they struggle with making it go in a particular way that they want it to go. So like coding sort of ideas, those early kind of hands-on ideas of coding where they're trying to manipulate the movement of something. And we can really start to explore that with some of these ideas and activities you all are mentioning.
Yeah, I like that. Like, they do well with like rolling stuff, like rolling something down the slide or like a marble run. You just have to release it and watch it. So maybe at the end, it launches something by letting like a kickball, but just like let it roll down something.
And
Like
then causes that'd be so fun. It's reminding me of have you guys seen those videos where they set something up like that, but it goes through like their whole house where they just have this big, so like a little mini version of that where it causes a launch at the end or somewhere in between in the middle of it. Okay, we've got a comment in the chat. For younger infants, just give them a wooden spoon and a ball nearby and let them explore. Definitely. So we talked about like their arms and their legs kind of being that catapult arm, but also other things to just hit stuff, baseball type activities, things like that. They could even, you know, swing, more of a golf swing. Even be interesting for them to explore with some kind of item like a spoon or a bat or different things. What would be the best way to swing? Should I swing high? Should I swing low? What are different movements?
Or maybe like blowing on something like a pinwheel, how it makes it go.
Yeah, these are really connecting to that cause and effect idea, you know, that they can have some sort of say in what happens in the movement of something else. And definitely utilizing breath, air, which connects kind of that other idea you mentioned too, where they're stomping on something that pressurizes and causes a launch that way. So that was something that came up as we've been exploring and really wanting to connect with, especially that infant age, which can be so challenging to kind of think about and coordinate activities that are connected. And so that was one thing that came up for us, was thinking about an activity that you might do with children that are a little bit older and pulling out some of those big ideas. And then from those big ideas, thinking about leveraging activities that our infants already engage in. And since they aren't as capable of kind of like following steps or doing a particular task, we definitely can think about how can we take advantage of opportunities that they create from their own curiosities, their own exploration. And that was something that was really meaningful for me as I try to process how can we create really meaningful math and STEAM activities for that infant age. Daisuke said, maybe a wind tunnel to see one thing makes another thing do something. Wind makes objects define the air. Definitely. And little ones are always so interested in things that are flying through the air, whether it's seeing planes in there and they're like, look, you know, the plane, or they're the ones causing it. But also we have a wind tunnel that was set up at a site nearby us, and just watching the kids kind of watch different things go through the wind tunnel and how it affects it, whether it's feathers compared to like a scrunched up piece of paper or one of our little ping pong balls. But definitely just that idea of air and how it affects the flight of things, and allowing them just to see different things and be curious. Are we getting these ideas in the Padlet? Let me see. Nice. Let me check the chat. Okay, so as we think about a lot of ideas that have come up and thinking about the groups that you work with, the different organizations, what might be something that you could present or that you could do in a classroom if you're like coaching and spending time in classrooms, or, and think about your scenario, your teachers that you might work with, your students that you might work with. What could be an activity that you could go and do tomorrow that relates to these catapults? Or maybe that I'm saying one that you really might want to go do tomorrow. Was there something in particular that really sparked your interest?
I like just taping the spoon to the table and seeing how far it can go. I envision that there'll be a lot of broken spoons, you know, but maybe like I think it was Hannah that said use a spatula. So maybe, you know, like a plastic one or a silicone spatula, so that it has a little bit more give to it.
Yeah, awesome. And that's really easy to create too. Sally, I saw you popped on. Did you go ahead?
I was thinking of having the infants roll up, the older infants, the ones that are able to walk, roll a ball down the slide or the ramp that we have in the classroom.
Awesome. So utilizing some of the items maybe in the playground slides that you might have, or maybe it's a little slide in the room or different things, and having them.
Yes, or provide different objects to see what would actually roll and what doesn't.
Very interesting. So let's think about that a little bit. When you're thinking about different objects, you already said ball. What other objects are we thinking about that we could use in the classroom to do that?
Well, they might want to try a stuffed animal or just a block.
Stuffed animals, blocks.
Or a car.
Or a car, yeah.
Yeah, opens up a lot of opportunity for conversation about why does this one roll fast and this one roll slow?
A ball of yarn.
What was that?
A ball of yarn.
Oh, yeah. And then even thinking, it brings in some of that geometry, like Hannah was mentioning earlier too, of just the shapes of the objects. What kind of shape is this thing that I'm trying to roll down? And how does that affect whether it rolls well or doesn't?
I was just thinking, I'm in Massachusetts and we have a big snowstorm right now. So giving like toddlers mini little shovels and having them, that's kind of the same way a catapult works as shoveling. So having them understand like that motion too, or even older kids.
Definitely. There's like, if we think about it, there's so many different examples of times that there's kind of this catapult motion. There's like these forces that are in an arm and different engineering pieces of a catapult. So I just noticed a comment in the chat from Daisuke about maybe something made with rubber, easy to bend, but hard to be broken. I'm thinking maybe that was in reference to when we were talking about the table activity where you could secure some kind of launching arm to a table. We want a little bend, but we also don't want it to be broken. But we might need to plan for the fact that probably some of them will. Bring a couple extras.
I think it would be fun, like, sorry, Hannah, I think it would be fun to like start at the table, but then like go outside on the fence or on, you know, a play structure. And then maybe you have all these spoons taped different places. It's just kind of fun, as long as you're fine with things launching in that area, but it might just be kind of like funny where thinking about where you could tape these spoons down.
Oh, that'd be a blast.
It would be cool because then you could see like things starting at different heights. But I was also going to say that it'd be okay if spoons break, because then you could talk about like, oh, maybe you pushed it a little bit too hard. You had too much force. Like, how can we not let the spoon break next time? So that could be more conversations.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then maybe reinforcing the spoon like we did on the catapult, how it has that little piece of the half of the popsicle stick on the back.
Yeah, there's so many different things they can explore, not just with the you know, ideas of launching things, but also the materials they're using, the build, the as Hannah was saying, kind of like the different heights of where the catapult is. So from Bobby's idea of having them at different places, how does that affect it? Hannah said, how could we make this spoon stronger? Yeah. What materials could we use? Why is one spoon stronger than the other? We've only got a couple minutes left. Oh, Bobby, did you have something? Go ahead.
Oh, your comment just made me think that you could say, okay, you have 1 minute, go find something in the classroom. What else could you tape to launch? What could you find? And that might be funny. See what they come up with.
Definitely. Having them explore for themselves different materials and think about how that might affect what happens. So there was one more kind of big idea that we brought up quite a bit as we were building them and exploring them, but then also at the beginning as we thought of some of the big ideas, and that was measurement. So thinking about, let's start with toddlers. What kind of, you know, beginnings of measurement, what could we do with them as we engage in these different activities?
Could just use like relational language. So like whose ball went farther, whose ball was closer, whose ball went higher, things like that.
Right, just some of those beginning ideas of just learning that language, preparing them to start to think about how they can prove it later or how they can actually measure things later. But and Daisuke agrees with you, absolutely, the language and related vocabulary. As we're thinking about that as a leverage point for us in these activities with the younger ones, could somebody throw that into the Padlet as an opportunity of just the language, maybe even throw some ideas of different types of language, or relational measurement type of language. What other types of language or opportunities can you think of for language? Awesome. You guys got some great. So just to kind of review what some of the ideas that are being put in the Padlet, Opportunities to introduce relational language. This is farther, closer, higher when comparing the trajectories of different objects. Additional relational measurement, language, and vocabulary. Awesome. I think we might have something in the chat. Oh no, you can't add anything. I'm sorry. It might be because of the iPad. I thought we had tried these on the iPad, but yeah, if you're all the way, well, it should show up as a plus either way. So it might be a pad thing. Is there something that you could type into the chat and I can go put it in for you? Oops. Uh-oh, there we go. Okay, let's see. All right, so that kind of wraps it up. Hopefully you guys got some good ideas from everybody here. We're able to share those ideas and think through some things that you might actually be able to engage with some students with or share with teachers you might be working with. And Daisuke says, thanks guys for the amazing ideas. I agree. I always love hearing from educators and their ideas because they're so creative. You guys have always have your students in mind as you think about the things that you're going to do with them and create really fun and great things for students. So I had a blast. Hope you guys got some great ideas, and you should have access to this Padlet beyond today. So feel free to explore the other columns as well and look back at the ideas you came up with. And I will see you all next time.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Elin Anderson. I'm a coach for I coach the central region of our organizations that are participating in the Early Math Initiative grant. But it's nice, I think we have this opportunity to do some breakout sessions where we get to do some networking with other folks and get to hear from other voices. Oops, my slides are going back and forth. I may exit because can everybody see those slides if I have it presented like this? All right, thanks for the thumbs up. So we're going to go ahead and talk about coaching the activity today, or just thinking about coaching in general. At our last breakout session, I shared this slide with the folks that attended the breakout session on coaching, and this slide was something that Steve shared with us during the 2019 Summer Institute, and when we were talking about coaching, and it's listening to hear, and that when we're listening to hear, we're really not using just our ears, but we're using our eyes to see things, our mind to think and to process, thinking about giving whoever we're listening to our undivided attention, our focus, and definitely using our heart to feel. So I shared this with the folks again because these are things that we want to really keep in mind when we're coaching folks. And the last session we talked about, we went over paraphrasing, listening and paraphrasing, so that folks really know that we're listening to them, that we're here and we're present and we're listening. So today during our time together, really want to talk about how we can make connections to the people that we're coaching, because in order for us to to coach folks, we need to make that connection to them. So before we get into our 3 questions, I would like to just learn a little bit about each of you. So I'm going to actually, because my my mouse can be a little bit crazy. I'm going to stop my screen share for a minute, and just give us some time to introduce ourselves. Maybe share what area and organization you're from, and maybe something that is bringing you joy right now in these times. So I'll go ahead and go again. My name is Elin Anderson. I'm from the AIM Center in Fresno, California. Something that's bringing me joy right now is my dog. My dog brings me a lot of joy because he's just always so happy to see me, whatever mood I'm in, and he keeps me motivated to exercise because he likes to go out for walks, which is good because sometimes it's hard to be motivated to get going and get away from your screen. Is there anybody else that would like to share?
I'll share. Hi, my name's Catherine McCoy. I work with Placer County Office of Education. I'm a teacher there. And a thing that brings me joy, I'm also going to steal your answer, my dog. We're about to celebrate his 1-year anniversary in the family on the 13th. So he's been really great during the pandemic because, like you said, gets us outside, gets us hiking and doing a lot of outside activities.
Great, thank you for sharing.
Okay, I can share. My name is Joan Saflita. I'm a quality improvement coach with the organization Bananas, so I'm sure you'll remember Bananas. But it's a California resource and referral for Northern Alameda County. And something that brings me joy is FaceTiming with my grandsons. I've got 3. They're in Hawaii and outside of Portland. So I missing a whole year of growth.
Wow.
But seeing them on FaceTime.
Thanks for sharing. I know although it's as hard as this has been, very thankful for the technology we have that we are able to FaceTime relatives and friends that are far away. Yeah, definitely.
I'm Tammy Montgomery. I'm with Sierra Unified in Central California. And something that brings me joy are, like Joan, my grandbabies. They're actually just down the hill from me, and both their mom and dad, on Tuesdays, their shifts overlap by about half an hour. So darn, I have to be the babysitters. You know, I get to have them for a brief moment of time in the middle of the week, which is a good break.
Darn. Yeah. Great. So before I forget, I'm going to put the link to a Padlet we have and that we created for the last breakout session. And you can go ahead, if you want to open that up, you can. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so we can pull up those questions. I need to pull up, oops. Sometimes I feel like I'm a tech newbie every time I am in Zoom because it never functions quite the way I want it to, especially when you're working on just your desktop, your little laptop. So in thinking about coaching, we want to think about, again, connecting to folks and really thinking about ways we can find out what are their interests or what are they curious about. We want to find out what their passions are, what brings them joy. And actually, I just did that right now by asking you to introduce yourself and sharing something that brings you joy. So now I know a little bit more about each of you, and hopefully you know a little bit more about each other. And then also resources. What resources do they have available to them? Because we don't want to, or engage in coaching or start, and again, in thinking about coaching, wanting to know about them. We don't want to share something that might not be accessible to them. So what resources do they have available? What are some of their ideas? And so how could we figure those things out? Or again, since we have this time to network and share, thinking about those questions, what are some ideas that or strategies you have found that have been helpful in collecting information around those three ideas?
This is Joan, and one thing that I think that I've used in the past, a strategy, is to ask people to come with a picture on their phone or an object that represents let's say the strengths of your program, or this, something wonderful about your school and what you're doing. Because I think everybody comes into teaching or most people go into teaching because they're excited about children learning, or they're motivated, or something floats their boat, and if they can bring one picture of a child doing something, or a project that they tried, or the garden that they worked on, or something, then it becomes a starting point. I assessing what their interests are. I'm trying to connect with them, and I'm trying to make a connection between what their passion is and my content. If I have a content in a workshop or in a coaching session, it would be what would we might be talking about the environment, doing an Eckers related to environment and math resources, or support for math opportunities in the classroom.
Great. So you give them that invitation to share something personal that helps them, that helps you make that connection, either a photograph or something that really interests them.
Yeah, something that's meaningful to them.
Great.
What do other people do? I'd love to get some strategies.
So one thing I did long before we got shut down and couldn't be all together is one of the activities that we wanted the materials that we're going to use for the activity that would be presented later in our session, just have it out and available. And while people were gathering and getting ready for the meeting, ask them to just go ahead and, look through the materials, do whatever you want to do with them, and just actually have them interact and engage. And the conversations immediately started, oh, I'd love to see this, and I could do this and this and this. And so the idea sharing was immediate instead of being solicited. in a more strategic way. So it's more a natural process than to try and have them actually make that connection. So then once they had talked about it and we brought it up later in the formal session, they're going, this is what I was thinking and this is how I would apply it. And so then they were making the connections to what we were presenting as a coaching strategy to that actual activity that they had already engaged in and had already formulated some ideas without the constraints, I guess, of coaching strategy. So it was really powerful.
Yeah, so just by having those materials out and allowing them that space to play and engage with that really solicited some conversation to help focus possibly your next steps with those educators and things that they wanted to focus on and things that they were curious about in using those. So that's a great idea, great strategy. Any ideas for the resources, thinking about or finding, especially in our environment right now, finding or figuring out ways to find out what resources they have available?
Well, just like you're sharing a Padlet, I have a math resources Padlet of different, like the California Math Project, AIMS, DREAM, you know, so that they, and I share that with them and encourage them to develop, their own, that's, one thing in the virtual. We've all been catapulted to some degree into a virtual digital platform. And so that's one thing. But in doing the distance learning is just focusing on what's in the home. No fancy this or that, but just what is in your home. I just did a workshop and we did a scavenger hunt. Using things in the home. And so
yeah, so finding like you were saying, Joan, finding or creating virtual platforms that help share resources that are available, but give them the chance to share things that they find as well, because that's what I find the unique advantage of using a Padlet is that people can still add to it, and we'll go to ours in a minute. And then also in the activities that you're using, trying to find things that are readily available in the home or very flexible, so that that families feel that they have things that are ready there for them, or possibly find something that they could use in place of that. That's not too much of a challenge. Has everybody been able to open the Padlet? I'm gonna go ahead and stop my share and see if I can go to the Padlet. It helps if I talk while I and yeah, so we have our coaching column here. And again, I was sharing that last time we talked about pausing and paraphrasing, but I have here our questions to think about for this time. What might be some things you could do to find out What brings the person you are coaching joy? What are their interests and what are they curious about? So feel free to add some of your strategies that you've talked about today. Like I love the idea of, having them bring or inviting them to share a picture of something that's meaningful for them, inviting them to engage with materials that you're going to be doing some coaching around first, just to see what they're curious about. I think those are great ideas. And thinking about making connections with folks, isn't that what we do with our students too? To best engage our students in learning, it really is crucial to make connections with our students and get to know them, get to know their interests, get to know what their environment is like outside the school setting. Although with our virtual distance learning, that's become a little blurred right now. But what brings them joy? What are they curious about? So we need to do the same thing we do with our students. It can be said with the educators we work with as well. Being really mindful of finding out what they're curious about, what brings them joy.
I think maybe I'm wondering about connecting what they're curious about with why is that important? It's just like, or not to, to explain, maybe like what comes to mind when you think about gardening, or when you think about, in this case, tinkering, what are kind of connecting the intentionality of, it's a fun activity. Yes, it's fun and kids are going to have fun, but what is the learning that's, you're trying to support? And maybe going a little deeper with that, or connecting what they're doing to, content, or like standards. That's what I mean.
Sure. So if I'm hearing you saying that if you are able to find out what's meaningful to them and make those connections, that it's easier to help make connections for them to either the activity that you're thinking about, or you're helping them plan for or coach through, or possibly make connections to standards, that it connects to concepts, math or science that it connects to, and to really help them connect it to something that's meaningful to them, and therefore making it more probably something that they retain, possibly a little more, and it becomes more meaningful to them. So Catherine, I know you're a classroom teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. So does that idea of, I know you probably, maybe you work with your grade folks at your grade level, but have you found interesting ways to connect to your students if you're teaching virtually or doing?
So we're in the classroom, but I think that for me this year, I think what's been interesting is, since we can't allow the families inside our classrooms. It's for me, what I'm trying to do is explain and show and, document how we're doing this, how we're working with your children and having them learn, to the parents that can't like visually come in and see. You can't have a back to school night. So, it's kind of more educating the parents and showing the parents and kind of demonstrating that without them kind of getting the full experience that they were getting before.
Sure.
Well, don't you think, Catherine, that when you do that, that it increases the intentionality or the purpose of the teacher as well? At the same time, because you have to kind of present it to parents.
Exactly. So you're just thinking about new ways to do what you're used to. So something that we were able to do, we're just doing it more. So I started this almost like a blog, like information board for parents, so that they can come in, they can comment, they can connect and see what we're doing. So they get, these posts. And right now I'm just kind of focusing on mathematics and what we're doing inside the classroom so that parents can kind of see that and ask questions, and be able to have that access as if they're almost inside the classroom.
Wow. Do they share what they're doing at home?
Well, so the parents can see it online if they wanted to, but we're kind of doing like a creative curriculum type idea. So more hands-on learning, very engaged. We're right next to a college campus that's closed due to the pandemic as well. So we take a lot of walks around there, and that's kind of where they're getting their knowledge.
That's great. That's yeah, and it sounds like I was going to ask the same type of question, or I think similar question to what Joan was asking, is like with your interactive blog, or the blog, is that it seems like it could be helpful in for you to gather some information on what they're doing at home.
Yeah.
It's
kind of, both way tool.
Yeah, which is nice. It's nice that we've been able to come up with these platforms or ways of sharing that are interactive and can be both ways, like the Padlet, where you can, you're sharing ideas, but you're also getting ideas from that as well. Yeah. So if you were thinking about possibly having students engage with the activity that we did, the tinkering with catapults, is that something that you could share with parents, and they could possibly, you could try it in the classroom and then you could try it at home?
Yeah, I would definitely say that this would be something that our parents would like to do as well. I work with the 3 to 5s. So we were kind of discussing in the activity, this one would definitely be for my younger ones that they could, do. And then like for the older ones that we have, they would be able to kind of do this. So kind of teaching the parents the stepping stools and, how to get from this to this, and kind of explaining it to the parents, and then having them do the project at home. They would be able to kind of share that with the blog as well. So it could kind of be, what are you guys doing? And as we were saying in the activity, how much communication, like just we were doing, okay, well, I tried this, but it didn't work. So, it's really helping and guiding the parents too, oh, well, we did this, but it didn't work. How did you guys do it in the classroom?
Right. Yeah. Like you could share, on your interactive blog, maybe all the iterations that you as a class came up with, or different types of catapults they came up with, possibly suggestions for the materials, or little kits that they could take home. and then try it and then have them share their pictures and
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
questions they had. Yeah, that is the one thing about technology that's, yeah, is amazing. And we're able to share videos, pictures back and forth. That is really helpful.
You know, it made me, listening to you talk, Catherine, made me think about a third grade teacher my son had, and some of the homework would be, the math homework would be to, um, you know, or maybe it was even kindergarten, I don't remember, but it was the very primary grades, and the homework would be counting steps in your house, or counting how many windows, or measuring a tree outside in front of your house, the closest tree, or how many steps to. So it was really using a lot of homeschool connection to, and I thought of that when you were explaining how this communication, this blog goes back and forth. So thank you for helping me to remember that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm trying to capture some of your ideas that you've shared on the Padlet, because I don't want us to. There have been some really great ideas. So I've added invite a person to share a picture that is meaningful to them, interactive blogs to share with families, inviting educators to play with materials, to solicit. Focus. Feel free to edit any of these.
I had this one trainer one time, started off her thing just by saying, here's what I did, and I did it completely wrong. And just, it was the worst situation. And it's like, how can you improve what I did? And I always thought that was really interesting, because it made you kind of connect with the trainer, because it made you feel like, oh, my trainer can, make this mistake. Then, it makes it more comfortable to kind of share ideas, I felt like, and it kind of got to know each person that way too.
So sharing our mistakes.
Yeah, especially when it came to what, what topic you were learning, just kind of made it, oh, okay, and then everybody's, kind of throwing out ideas because they just feel more comfortable.
Sure, that's a good strategy. It definitely helps humanize everybody in the situation. Yeah, that's a great strategy.
The message it gives is that it's okay to take risks, because you don't know how things are going to turn out until you try.
Definitely. Yeah, in fact, when we were doing our hands-on line activity with my group, when I was making the popsicle launcher, I put the arm on going the wrong direction first, and it was like, why isn't this working? And then I, realized I had to turn it around. So one of those in the moments, oh, we're learning together. So yeah, sharing our mistakes is a great way to connect with the others, and yeah, find out more about them.
What about also wondering out loud? I wonder what would happen if. Does because you're really talking about variables, and different ways to change an idea or to transform an idea. And I think the connection there that I would bring out is that there are multiple ways to solve a problem. That would be the big, umbrella, that we want a value, putting a value on multiple ways to solve a problem or to come up with a solution or an idea to an idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. And again, that's something that sometimes we do with our students. I know in the classroom, I would often, we call like a think aloud, but I think that can be helpful even when you're engaging in a conversation with just one or two people, just sharing your thinking, or if you're in a planning process, or you're thinking about different materials, just doing that wondering out loud helps them connect to you, and maybe will in a way invite them to share out loud their thinking as well. So that's a really good strategy. And I know I have to force myself or remind myself to do that, because I'm a naturally quiet person. I'm not one to be like, I talk to myself in my head all the time, but just, making that out loud, I have to remind myself to do that. But that's a really great strategy to use with others that we are coaching, whether it be our little ones or adults that we're working with. That's a great strategy.
The other thing is, we're embedding equity in all of our work. So embedding equity, like what would it mean in coaching? I think the natural thing I start with is hearing everybody's voice. How do you hear everyone's voice and their ideas? Because it could be very different one from another, That's the nice thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be even, saying, I wonder if we can hear from someone who, hasn't shared yet. I'm curious about what you're, not to put anybody on the spot or anything, but, creating that space that it's okay to share that voice.
Yeah, definitely. And just making sure we create that environment so everybody feels comfortable in sharing, whether it be a larger group or even just a one-on-one conversation, that they feel like they are in a safe environment. That's a place where they can learn and grow. Definitely. And I think, again, making those connections goes a lot to helping create that environment, that safe environment, which you all have shared some really great ideas. Do you have, are there any other, in thinking about that, hearing everyone's voice? I know, Joan, you shared some ideas or some strategies. Are there other ways that we might ensure that we're hearing everyone's voice?
Since you were talking about like being a shy person and not necessarily wanting to speak out like vocally, maybe you could have some form of like a written, jar or something that somebody could do, like during like a break. You can throw in questions, something that somebody might not, might not feel comfortable asking, something like that. Or even I've seen them where you can like have them do it on their phone. It's some type of like questionnaire, and then it will like show up on the screen. That way it's just more, it's just more, you don't have to put yourself out there, because some people, some people just feel not comfortable. That way you're hearing their voice as well.
Yeah, so giving them different
outlets.
Outlets to participate. Great.
I think also building on strengths. So whatever anybody brings to you, I think that's a strength that we could build off of, of just anybody saying, well, I'm not sure. And saying, I'm really glad you expressed that, because sometimes, I'm not sure either, and I don't know, it's just, and that's, so important to, that's part of our inquiry process, and just looking for the strengths.
Yeah, so again, giving them that space to be curious, to find out what they're wondering, but if there's some questions that are unanswered, or that there are things that they're not sure about, letting them know that that's okay too. Yeah. Great. Well, we're almost hitting 3:15, so I want to make sure I get a little bit of time to wrap things up. I want to thank you so much for sharing today. Hopefully you've had a chance to explore some ideas and some elements around coaching that really makes it more effective, and helps you have those meaningful discussions with either families or other educators that you're working with, and even our students that we work with, really helping to, or thinking about making those connections and getting to know, taking the extra time to get to know the folks that you're working with, really helps to make your coaching, your work go a lot further. It helps you, again, be alongside them as a learner also. And so I encourage you to continue to use the Padlet, explore it, keep on adding to it. We're hoping to use the same Padlet for all of our community of practices this year. So hopefully by the end of our time together this year, it'll be a wealth of information. If you find links or that you find helpful, feel free to add them to the coaching, or if, feel free to look at the other breakout sessions that people.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for engaging in our breakout session around moving forward together, and sort of reflecting on the Padlet from the different sessions. It seemed like there were a lot of fantastic ideas, some enthusiasm about moving forward, and creative ways to continue to innovate, to continue to rely on commonly found materials and resources, and to think about how we can engage children, families, and educators in important mathematical learning together. So thank you for those ideas. I'm excited that the Padlet will stay there, and we'll be able to continue to build on that and reflect on those ideas as we go forward. I want to just take the last few minutes of our time together today to highlight a few resources that are available to all of you. As you know, at our website, aimscenter.org/CAEMI. There are resources related to our initiative. There are early math initiative resource briefs that our colleagues at WestEd have put together. The arithmetic brief, the counting brief, and so on are available there in English and Spanish for download. In addition, there are other resources related to our project. Community of practice sessions like today are being recorded, and those will be posted on our community of practice site, which is also available on our website. You can see that the resources from our session in December are posted and available, and we will have up video as well as the additional resources and files that were used today. We will have those up on the website by the end of the week. So be sure to check back and find access to those things. If you have colleagues who weren't able to attend today, who you would like to share this information with or the experience with, we encourage you to utilize those resources as well. In addition, you will find on our website at aimscenter.org/resources some additional resources that may be of interest to you. We have the one-page activity sheets that you use today, for example, for the catapults, but in addition to that, some of the other ones that we've done and more that you may not be aware of are available for free downloads in English and Spanish. And those activities are supposed to be simple activities that can be done in a variety of different settings, either in school settings or in community settings. They are intentionally one page, and they all follow a similar framework of observe, create, and play. And these are sort of three big ideas that are woven throughout these, that as we play together, there are things that we can create, things that we can make. And then as adults become expert facilitators of these activities, things that they can observe and notice, and the kinds of questions that they can ask to support and extend children's thinking while first building on what they notice that children are doing in those activities. So we encourage you to visit and download those. They're exciting. They've all been tested, and we've been doing them, and we're continuing to revise. So if you have feedback or ideas on future activities, please let us know. In addition, I want to highlight the California Early Math Project website, a partner with us on this initiative. I think Carolyn from the project was with us today, and I'm not sure that she still is, but she was here for a bit. But I just want to highlight this because they also are posting some of the initiative website or initiative resources on their website. They've got book reviews that are children's books with connected activities in mathematics and ways to extend and explore those. So you can visit their website for book reviews. Also highlighting the upcoming reveal of an early math app, which will be available on web devices, mobile devices as well. And this app will be coming out and available for families, community members, educators, that really will highlight some of the videos that you've seen produced in this initiative, books, related hands-on activities. And the app will be called Count, Play, Explore, along with some of the other resources in this initiative. And that will be coming out shortly as well, and will be made available to all of you. So we will keep you apprised of that development as we find out more about the timing for when that will eventually be released. And then finally, I just also want to take a moment to give a shout out to Dr. Lupe Jaime Mayalham. Lupe has been a part of our project now since the beginning and was part of the team that dreamed it up. Lupe, as you know, has been a senior director at the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools office. And Lupe has recently been appointed to Deputy Director of Child Care and Development Division at the California Department of Social Services. So we're very excited for Lupe. We are privileged and honored to know her, and are just excited about this next step related to her work that will continue in support of young children and families but doing that from the Sacramento area. She promises she will remember all of us and the decisions and the work that she has to do. So, but we're just thrilled for Lupe and excited for her. Finally, to conclude, I want to just give everyone a big thank you so much for being with us today. We hope that these conversations and the learning that you've experienced today will continue. Look forward to hearing how this can inform your coaching conversations with your AIMS coaches going forward, as well as the fantastic implementation that you are doing in your own communities across the state. We're privileged to be able to spend this time with you. We look forward to 2 more community of practice sessions, one at the end of March on March 29 from 1 to 3:30, and then our final on May 24th from 1 to 3:30. So with that, I want to thank you all. I want to thank the AIMS team. I want to thank Chris Bennett for helping us to get this up and running and keep things moving smoothly. And a big, big thank you to everyone, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you all.